For our last event today, we have Vanishree, who will be from Firma, who will be presenting the closing keynote on open problems in ZK.
Right. So hello, everybody. My name is Vanishree. I was on the conference a little while ago doing an amazing panel on custom circuits and ZK and great to be here back again. And I'm going to present some open questions I think are great for us as an ecosystem to figure out answers for. I think answer to these questions can really help further to a good extent from where we are, our ZK space. And I'll say at the very beginning, I don't have full solutions. I'm not presenting solutions to these problems. And I'm hoping these questions will get picked up by amazing researchers out there, and I would love to collaborate. I think my goal here is to put out the questions and to give some initial promising directions. I have two questions. I also kind of mentioned one question on upgradability in the panel we did, but I think for this talk, I'm going to specify two questions. All right. So our ZK space, right? Think of our ZK space as something that is, we are definitely moving at a breakneck speed. And if we are to visualize where we are in this journey of ZK evolution, you should imagine a rocket that is racing towards space and that is reaching its so-called max Q point, where there is the highest pressure, aerodynamic pressure on the nose of the rocket. And I feel that that is where we are. One thing to note about a point like max Q point is that is where the strength of nuts and bolts and the system calibrations, the correctness of system calibrations get tested. And any small flaw can lead to catastrophic failures. This is why, in preparation for a point like this, which I think is imminent in the ZK space, we need to step back and make sure not just in building the rocket, but also in tightening the nuts and bolts. And what are those nuts and bolts? I think one nuts and bolts that is a little bit peripheral from proof system development and infrastructure development is trusted setup. It has such huge implications on our success, our failure, and it is imperative that we take a very careful look at where we are and look at the gaps and look at any loose nuts and bolts in this area, because I do believe that we are very close to that max Q point. I want to also mention another reason to keep in mind for studying where we are and for studying where we should be with respect to trusted setups. And that reason is most currently popular proof systems are of the following type. If they have trusted setups, then any incorrect trusted setup, maybe a leakage of the secret value, or incorrectly distributed trusted setup parameters, they will affect not ZK property, but the soundness property. There are other proof systems one can think of where they actually affect the ZK property, but the ones that, as far as I know, that are popular now are the ones where bad trusted setups affect soundness. So if something affects soundness, then things like you can, if you're proving something like Zcash, right? In Zcash, you can create infinite Zcash out of thin air and not get detected. Things like that. You can create proofs, false proofs, and that's really bad. So it's really, really important that we get we give some mindshare to trusted setups. This is the topic where both the problems that I will present today are on. And the first question I have is the following. How do we, so let me give you a little bit of prelude before I state the question. The prelude is as follows. How do we do trusted setups? How do we get trusted setup parameters these days? We do a ceremony, right? Many people pull in their contributions to the random secret, the tau, in the trusted setup. So let's keep that in mind, and also note that when it is done that when contributions are pulled in that way, the contributions may not be completely pure in terms of randomness, may not be completely random, right? They may have less than ideal min entropy. This is something to note. Now the question is, is this enough? The way we are doing this trusted setup ceremonies is enough to get us the level of soundness we want? If not, what should we do, right? This is the question. So I'll repeat the question. Is what we are doing enough for soundness? If not, what should we do? Given the fact that people are pulling in their contributions to the value tau in a way where people are generating randomness from some sources, maybe from a lava lamp, or somebody maybe from the noise in a circuit, etc. They typically don't have the full entropy, right? They have some distribution. So that's the question. Now, let's dig a little bit deeper. Why distribution is important? Why full min entropy is important? Let's dig that a little bit. To do that, let's consider a proof system which needs trusted setups. The way we bring soundness to the proof system is by, when somebody is designing a proof system, the way we bring soundness to the proof system is by saying that is by actually relying on an assumption, right? On a complexity theoretic assumption. Think of discrete log as an assumption. Hardness of factoring is another assumption, but these proof systems tend to want more structured and more richly structured assumptions. And an example is the QD-log assumption. So feel free to look up. I think this is a very popular assumption. So here we say that if we start with a tau, the value, the variable tau, and we say that if tau has full min entropy, then this assumption holds, and then there is some assumption, and if that assumption holds true, then the proof system is secure, right? This is how a proof system works. Proof systems designed to have soundness works. Now, that's the flow. Now change the flow to the real world, where tau doesn't have full min entropy because it comes from the real world. How does that affect the complexity theory, the hardness assumption? Will it remain the same? Will it not remain the same? Don't know. If it changes, then the changed assumption, how will that affect soundness? We don't know. These are things that need to be studied. Okay, so before we go further, I want to give another quick visual on how trusted ceremonies happen a little bit, just one layer down. So different people pull in their contributions to the randomness, and tau is typically computed as product of the values S1, S2, S3. These are different contributions, and tau becomes a product of these values. Okay, now back to the question. What's the question again? As a reminder, are we okay doing the way we are doing trusted ceremony? If not, what should we do? So for that, to go towards that question, here's my proposal. Let's start with Q1. Q1 is the following question. Recall we are doing products of two random so products of multiple random variables, and the question is, does the product operation of two independent random variables increase the min entropy of the product random variable more than the minimum of the two input random variables? The question, so that's the question, that if it does increase, then we are right. Like, it's great because what we are doing is we are progressively increasing min entropy of the product by pulling in more and more random variables, by pulling in more and more contributions to the setup ceremony, if the answer to this question were to be right. But the answer is we don't know, because it can happen, but it really depends on the exact distributions of the input random variables, and you cannot impose distributions of random variables the way we are doing our trusted setup ceremonies these days, because people have various kinds of sources for randomnesses, and we don't know what kind of distributions we'll end up having. So assume that the answer to this question is no. So what do we? So this question is a slightly more formal way of saying, are we okay the way we are doing? And the answer is probably not. So now, what do we do? Here is a concrete thing I think we should do. I have extra slides for that. Let's just go through them. What is a concrete thing we should do? What modifications we can do to the way we currently do setup ceremonies now that can enhance our that can enhance further, that can enhance that can get us closer to where we want. Where we want is the assumptions. Where we want is soundness ultimately, and which means that we need the assumptions to be true. It means that we need enough min entropy in tau. So this is where we want to get what modifications can we do. And here is one specific modification that is such a clear low-hanging fruit I think we should have in all these libraries that are doing trusted setup ceremonies. And that one is, instead of one single source of randomness, I think we should have two sources of randomness for each contribution, and perform a randomness extractor and compute a randomness extractor on top of these two independent sources of randomness. And that should be the one that is contributing to the trusted setup ceremony, because this extractor is built to increase the effective min entropy of the extracted value. So product didn't do the work. Well, all I'm saying is that start with two. The resulting one will give you one value which has higher min entropy than min of the two, and why two sources of randomness and not the other kinds of randomness extractors where they have a seed and you extract randomness from one single variable, because seed also needs to be random, and it is hard to get pure randomness even if it is for a small seed. So let's just go with two sources of randomness, independent sources of randomness. And there are, I think, very simple constructions for two source extractors. And I think the libraries that we have currently should really consider incorporating that. Okay, so we went through question number one. Let me summarize what we talked about. We are going at a breakneck speed. We should zoom out, look for nuts and bolts and tighten them. A good place to start is trusted setups. They have high impact. There are some low-hanging fruit. There are some clear, quick changes we can bring about to make some changes. The specific first one we talked about was on ensuring good enough min entropy for tau in the trusted setup ceremonies we do. The second question, now on to the second question. All right. This is a very interesting question, I think. We have a ton of proof systems right now, right? And I think the world will be a multi-proof system world. Different proof systems cater to different business priorities: proof system time, proof generation time, proof generation cost, etc. And in a world like that, you'll have multiple proof systems, which means that if you do the way we are doing now, different proof systems have their own trusted setup parameters. You will have to do those many trusted setup ceremonies. Doing trusted setup ceremonies are a headache for two reasons. One, operationally really hard. Two, you can make mistakes there, and it is good to have one single trusted set of parameters. I think the first one is a lot more impactful reason. Really operationally hard to do trusted setup ceremonies. Okay, so I stated the current status, and I stated the problem. Current status, multiple proofs. I think in the future there will be multiple proofs. Currently we have multiple setup ceremonies, multiple setup parameters required by different proof systems. In the future world, can we have a universal trusted setup? That is the question, right? Won't it be amazing if we have one single trusted setup parameters that can be used by all proof systems, where people can continue to progressively update trusted setup, let's ensure that we continue to work with universally updatable trusted set of parameters. In that case, it's not like one team did it and the other team has to use it, but the other team can contribute to the randomness and ensure that their randomness is part of it. And if there is only one single honest contribution to the trusted setup ceremony, you can assume, you can have that there is good distribution. So that is how these current trusted setup trusted setup parameters are. So let's continue to use that. Now, won't it be amazing? Given all that amazing things, it'll be further amazing to have one single universal trusted setup for the entire world for however many proof systems. How do we get there? Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's see to get there, let's see where the blocker is, where the current blocker is. The current blocker is in the fact that proof systems, proof systems, these heavy proof systems, they typically work in two phases, right? There is an inner proof system that does the heavy lifting, gets some level of succinctness, and then there is yet another layer around it that helps you get proofs that are on-chain verifiable. So this is how currently it is done, and why we need bespoke trusted setup for each proof system. And the reason is that the prover of the, so let's call them inner prover and the outer prover. Outer prover's proof is the one that is going on chain. The prover of the outer proof system proves verification of the inner proof system, which is different for different proof systems, and that is why, and we are actually doing trusted ceremony for the outer proof system. And given the computation differs for different proof systems, we need, this is what is a forcing function for us to have bespoke trusted setup across different proof systems. Okay, so that's the reason, that's the hindrance. What do we do? Typically, the outer layer is Groth16, right? Okay, let's see, can we replace Groth16 in some manner and do some magic? Let's see. What if we start with Flonk, where there is no trusted setup, but there is a problem. If you replace it with Flonk, there is a problem. The problem is that there's a problem. So you can have Flonk in two ways, and in both the ways there is a problem. There is a problem. The two ways are, you represent the entire computation of verification of the inner prover. You represent the entire verification algorithm of the inner proof system as an arithmetic addition multiplication circuit. Let's say we go that way, then it can become really, really large. The outer prover can become really, really large. That's the problem. The other direction of representing the verifier of the inner proof system with some custom gates is that the verifier, the outer proof's verifier, will depend on the number and the type of custom gates you'll have. So you're really not getting you're really you're settling for something less than ideal. Groth16 has amazing on-chain verifiability with constant. You don't want to just it's not just logarithmic in the size of the computation, it's constant in the size of the computation, and it's perfect. So you want to aim for that. You want to continue to aim for that in this replacement. So all in all, Flonk either approaches has problems. what if you replace Grot16 with something like bulletproof or IPA based? There, it's great because again, there's no trusted setup, and there's no pairing. No pairing is just a point to note, but it's not a big upside right now. But just to note, it has no trusted setup. That's a great point. But the problem is that the proofs generated by IPA, they tend to be large. So again, we haven't solved it all. So here is an approach that I would love for someone to take it up and solve. Actually, when I shared this problem, a couple of research students are likely going to pick this up and think this through, which I'm really excited. I think this is my main goal of presenting these questions, and I think someone is researching this. But if anybody else wants to research this, here is a potential approach. It may have roadblocks. It may not work, but at its face value, it might work. Here is an approach. Instead of doing one level smoothing of Grot16 around the inner prover, let's do 2-level smoothing. If you do 2-level smoothing, why could it work? The second level can be with bulletproof based proof system, and then the final one can be Grot16. So when you do something like that, let's talk about two main points. One point is on-chain verifiability with universal trusted setup. On-chain verifiability we get thanks to Grot16. Universal setup we get because bulletproof already reduces the amount of work to be done to prove the verifier, right? The Grot16 prover needs to do much less work thanks to the succinctness brought about to a good extent. I shouldn't say succinctness. I think pedantic people will not like it. But I should say the reduction in the amount of work done to prove the amount of work that the Grot16 prover needs to do is much less in this case. So that's great. So we can have the Grot16 prover be we can have the Grot16 prover be all addition multiplication, and there is this one single computation that you need to do, and that one single computation, maybe the size is bigger or the smaller, so you can do a trusted setup for the verifier of bulletproof, which is great. So universal trusted setup, which is great. And this is one point I wanted to say. The other point, actually 2 points. I already said 2 points. And then another tactical point is it's good to have bulletproof and Grot16 to be to be the smoothing layers, because bulletproof, like we noticed in the previous slide, it doesn't need pairing, so you can have a half pairing cycle where Grot16 is built with the pairing one and elliptic curve and bulletproof without that. My point is you can actually make it happen here. The tactical part of having bulletproof and Grot16 is that you can actually make this happen. Yeah, this is all how it seems on the face value. What I think needs to be done after this is take a proof system and see if this is even feasible, and ensure universality by checking if the prover of Grot16 can be consistent across various proof systems. Yeah, this is the second question I wanted to say. I think there are a few other interesting questions. I would love to jam with people who would want to think about these things or who are thinking about these things. And when I presented this last time, someone came up to me and said, "How are you at Firma doing trusted setup?" we're actually not doing trusted setup. I'm just obsessed about ZK and want to think about various things of ZK, and the goal is much larger, to achieve trusted systems. And we are focused at Firma, we are focused on building one thing, and that is universal proof generation infrastructure. We're building a marketplace for universal proof generation, where for any proof system, you can generate proofs in a cheap and performant manner. The specific headache we take away from projects is that they don't have to think about proof generation, right? They don't have to think about having multiple provers, making sure that they have the right optimal incentive structures, and how do you price proving, etc. These are all the headaches that we take away, and we give very clean API, very clean SLA guarantees to our customers. That's our main focus. And I talk about various things around ZK, but our focus at Firma is proof generation right now. And by the way, to tell you a little bit more about Firma, we are on DevNet. Feel free to go check out what we are doing. Yeah, this was fun. Thank you for this amazing opportunity to present here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vanishree. We actually had a question from the audience. What did you mean recently when you said that ZK will be bigger than blockchain? Coincidentally, this is also a panel topic that we had earlier.
Amazing. Yeah, I really... So what do I mean by ZK being bigger than blockchain? I think blockchain comes with a little bit of friction to some people, some organizations, some parts of the world where centralization has deep roots, and centralization already adds some value. I think centralization by itself is not bad. I think censorship is bad. Centralization can bring optimal operations, which is great. So I think it has its own value. Blockchain, a forced placement of blockchain is not necessary in cases like that, but ZK can increase efficiency for places like that. ZK can add value where blockchain doesn't seem to add value. ZK is more welcome in places where blockchain can be a friction. ZK can so if you think a little bit philosophically, right? All the work we are doing is to create something that has more value than the effort we put in. So when we put some effort, there is a value we spend, and the hope that whatever we are creating has bigger value than whatever we are spending, right? This is what we are doing, and ZK can enable that in general, right? Through its value of succinctness. You do some work, and you can have other people verify it in such an efficient manner. And this is especially useful in areas where there is system-to-system, multiple independent system collaboration. Within the system, maybe the ZK doesn't have a space, but when you have system-to-system collaboration, there is a space. I made a tweet, I think, describing, characterizing use cases where ZK is useful in non-blockchain world.
Thank you so much, Vanishree. That's an amazing take. And thank you also for, like in your presentation, posing those two main questions for tightening setup ceremonies, and that idea for a universal trusted setup with that potential approach of involving both bulletproofs and Groth16 for that two-level smoothing. I think that's very, very fascinating. Would love to hear more about it in the future as well. But yeah, thank you so much, Vanishree. And thank you also to all of our guests for participating in our panels. We are coming to a close to this conference. It's been very fun, very informative, very engaging. And also thank you to Starkware for partnering with House of ZK. And also I want to mention a big thank you to Ben from House of ZK and ZKM for organizing this entire conference. We wouldn't have this without him, so really appreciate his work in here. And of course, thank you to everyone in the audience for listening in. We're really interested in hearing your feedback and takeaways, so feel free to post them in our Discord channel, or you can tweet about them and tag us as well. So House of ZK's mission is to make ZK collaborative and to explore the perspectives and viewpoints of all the projects in the space. If there's anyone in the audience from the ZK project who would like to be involved in our future initiatives, please reach out to us. We'd love to include you as well. And in terms of upcoming events for House of ZK, keep a lookout on our upcoming event announcement for DevCon. So if you're in Thailand next month, be sure to stop by, chat with us, engage with some of the panels and workshops that we'll be hosting. We'll be very happy to have you there. But again, thank you so much, everyone, for attending today, and we'll see you next time.